Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another very interesting, extremely educating episode of Virtual Sankofa After School Program. Today, we are going to be continuing our talk about politics because, dun, 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 it is voting season. Yes, it's voting season. It can get a little crazy around this time. Everybody's shouting their views about different things. That's fine. It's great to have your own opinion about politics. But if you don't know anything about politics, then you can't have your own ideas about politics. So today I'm going to share just a little bit of information with you about what are the different areas when you talk about politics and politicians. What do words like judicial and executive and legislative, what do those terms even mean? You hear a lot of this when we talk about politics, but some of us don't really know what that means. So I'm going to just give you a broad overview of what these things mean so that you can begin to get a little bit of information and broaden your scope of understanding on politics. So if you give me just one moment, I'm going to share my screen and play a short video for you. It'll take just a moment.
Have you ever wondered who has the authority to make laws or punish people who break them? When we think of power in the United States, we usually think of the president, but he does not act alone. In fact, he is only one piece of the power puzzle, and for very good reason. When the American Revolution ended in 1783, the United States government was in a state of change. The Founding Fathers knew that they did not want to establish another country that was ruled by a king. So the discussions were centered on having a strong and fair national government that protected individual freedoms and did not abuse its power. When the new Constitution was adopted in 1787, the structure of the infant government of the United States called for 3 separate branches, each with their own powers, and a system of checks and balances. This would ensure that no one branch would ever become too powerful because the other branches would always be able to check the power of the other 2. These branches worked together to run the country and set guidelines for us all to live by. The legislative branch is described in Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Many people feel that the Founding Fathers put this branch in the document first because they thought it was the most important. The legislative branch is comprised of 100 U.S. senators and 435 members in the U.S. House of Representatives. This is better known as the U.S. Congress. Making laws is a primary function of the legislative branch, but it is also responsible for approving federal judges and justices, passing the national budget, and declaring war. Each state gets 2 senators and some number of representatives depending on how many people live in that state. The executive branch is described in Article 2 of the Constitution. The leaders of this branch of government are the president and vice president, who are responsible for enforcing the laws that Congress sets forth. The president works closely with a group of advisors known as the cabinet. These appointed helpers assist the president in making important decisions within their area of expertise, such as defense, the treasury, and homeland security. The executive branch also appoints government officials, commands the armed forces, and meets with leaders of other nations. All that combined is a lot of work for a lot of people. In fact, the executive branch employs over 4 million people to get everything done. The third branch of the U.S. government is the judicial branch and is detailed in Article 3. This branch is comprised of all the courts in the land, from the federal district courts to the U.S. Supreme Court. These courts interpret our nation's laws and punish those who break them. The highest court, the Supreme Court, settles disputes among states, hears appeals from state and federal courts, and determines if federal laws are constitutional. There are 9 justices on the Supreme Court, and unlike any other job in our government, Supreme Court justices are appointed for life, or for as long as they want to stay. Our democracy depends on an informed citizenry, so it is our duty to know how it works and what authority each branch of government has over its citizens. Besides voting, chances are that sometime in your life you'll be called upon to participate in your government, whether it is to serve on a jury, testify in court, or petition your congressperson to pass or defeat an idea for a law. By knowing the branches, who runs them, and how they work together, you can be involved, informed, and intelligent.
Alrighty, so that's just a little bit of information on the different branches of government. That will help you to understand that there are different areas that people specialize in. So for legislative, I like to remember that because it begins with the letter L, and L is for laws. The legislative makes the laws, and they're made up of Congress. So Congress, it's a bunch of people in Congress and they make up the laws, and then it's passed on to the executive. The executive branch is the president, the vice president, and their cabinet. And then we also have the judicial, which I like to remember that because there's a J, and I remember judge with judicial. So that's the Supreme Court. So we have the three C's. There's the Congress, the cabinet, and the courts. And those are the three branches that make up the government. When we're voting, we're not just voting for president and who's going to be the president or the vice president. We're also voting for members that sit in the Congress. We're voting for, there's a lot of different people that you can vote for. So it's not just about one person that's going to be making all of the executive decisions. We're voting for many different people, and all of these different people have different personalities. They have different opinions. They have different mindsets and views about how they think the country should be run. So it's very important for you to get the information on all of these different people that are running so that you know what they think the country should look like. If it's similar to what you think the country should look like, then maybe you should vote for them. It's good to have your own ideas about these things. It's good to not just look at social media or listen to what you hear on the radio, but get your own information, do your own research so that you can formulate your own opinions. This is going to be very important when you get to be older. Just as Mr. Williams was saying yesterday, you're not just going to be voting when you turn 18. You're going to have the power to vote even before then. As long as you have a voice, you have some type of power to affect some type of change. So I want you to remember that. And when you are of age to vote, it's very important that you put that voice into effect and you let people know what you think. The way you can let people know what you think is by voting. So next time I'm going to talk to you about Democratic and Republican. And I want you to do a little bit of homework. And when we come back together, we're going to compare ideas about Democrats and Republicans. And we're going to talk about the Democrats and the Republicans currently that are going into office, or that are fighting to go into office, should I say. So next time I'll talk to you guys about that. And we will be having a voting poll for you guys. So even though you can't vote legally in the United States right now until you're 18, you can vote on our poll online. So we will have an online poll next week. We want everybody to participate. You're going to be able to vote for who you think should be the next president, the next person in our council for our local offices. So I want you to do a little bit of research before then so you know who to vote for. I don't want you to just say, oh, I like that name, so I'm going to vote for this person, because that person can have some ideas that are completely against the ideas that you have. And if you don't know this, then you're going to just be voting for somebody based on their name versus based on what you really know about them. And they can get into office and make your life horrible based on what types of laws they'll try to pass. So do your research. We'll come back together again in a couple days, and I'll talk to you about Democrats and Republicans. Until then, bye.